It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Magical day to all. Welcome to Divas That Care Network. I am Joyce Benning, and I will be your host for this absolutely magical show. I first would like to thank each one of our listeners who have tuned in live today to this robust lifestyle show. I am so very grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. And you are all in for one magical show today, as I have with me an amazing new diva, Ann Klossing. And her and I are going to chat about law of free will to create freedom. Oh my, is this going to be one incredible show? So with that, Ann, would you please introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Well, thank you for having me, and that was a wonderful introduction. As she said, my name is Ann Klossing, and just a little bit about me. I grew up in the Midwest, south of Chicago on a farm, and I couldn't get out of that area fast enough, gravitated to Southwest Wisconsin after I graduated high school way back in 1985 and got into agriculture. And at soon to be 57, I am a channeler and a mentor, and I love to teach people how to connect with their soul, and that's what I'm all about.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, like I said, you are a true diva because what you're doing is service to others to help them connect with their soul and find out what is inside of them so they can live the best life that they can live. And oh, I just love it. So, with that, how would you like to start to share with our listeners about the law of free will to create freedom?
Maybe just a story. I didn't know anything about universal law probably until roughly 10 years ago. And it was like, what in the world are we talking about? Universal law. And I was raised in a small Baptist church in Plano, Illinois. So I have nothing against religion. There are several people that get spirit out of religion. And for me, it was not a good fit. And what I see from my perspective way back when I was brought up is that God has many boxes, and that I feared God. I was one of those people that was taught that, if you do bad things, you're going to go to hell. So this universal law stuff was like, what is this stuff? And it started to resonate. And life, I didn't know how to handle life. I didn't know how to experience life, and I didn't know who I was. So it's the evolving of the human to understand that you're more than just the skin and the hair and the bones and the brain, and that there's so much more inside of you. And when I realized that, and I'll admit, I'm still in my transformation. You don't transform overnight. You can. It can be that magical. And for some, I've listened to stories where it's like all of a sudden, aha, they got it. Well, for me, I was stuck in a very old paradigm of fear. And in fact, it was like an addiction to fear. And the life events over time showed me the way. So in order to get back to your question on the law of free will, it is so fundamental. And I teach 3 laws. One is the law of vibration. The second is the law of attraction. And I've started talking about the law of free will. And it's understanding the 3 of those and understanding that there's hundreds of universal laws, and so many that it would boggle our human concept. And it's not for us to worry about. And as a channeler, spirit repeatedly will tell me and my listeners, get back to basics, love, and then the understanding of these three universal laws. One, that you're a vibrational being, and two, that you attract the things that you're vibrating at. So that's the law of attraction. So there was, Jack Canfield. I actually masterminded with Jack. He's wonderful. And that's where I turned my life around, was in 2020 when I attended his class. When COVID hit, it was their first online class called Reignite Your Life. And I knew I was changing, and I knew I had some kind of gift. I was already automatic writing. And it was with his class that I really was like, wow, this is what is your calling. And through those courses, and then I studied in 2022, a year with Mary Morrissey. It's not your business, and it is not your right to feel, think, or act on another's behalf. And that's the beauty of the law of free will, of knowing that you can have anything in your life. You can be anyone who you want to be. And excuse me, my allergies are flaring today. That we can be anything, we can do anything, and we can have anything that we want in this lifetime. And then that flip side, what helps guide us is to set those boundaries, for ourselves, to not to think and not to feel and not to act on another's behalf. And I always look at people say, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. Well, number one, you didn't do anything. And it's not your job to feel. You can empathize with them, but to help them in their grief is to uplift them and not put pressure on them. Let them feel it for themselves. Let them work through it. And your job is to support them in any way that you feel fit. Maybe that's a meal. Maybe it's just sitting with the person. And instead of saying, how are you doing? You say, what's up? What's up is lighthearted. Gives them the opportunity to vent their grief. It's not a complicated law, but we complicate it. And I'll take out we. I can complicate that law. So when we have life events, and we're going to have life events, and you have families, it's hard not to act for your child. If they're being pushed around or bullied, it's hard not to defend them, but at the same time, you don't want them to get hurt as well. So it's allowing them the freedom to solve that problem with a bully. So how can you guide them in that situation? And if it gets to the point of violence, yes, it's time to intervene. But how can we help them sort through it and look at the infinite possibilities of what can come out of that situation? It's a fantastic law. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Oh, wow. You have said so much in such few minutes. I mean, just in the beginning, when you said how to handle life and you didn't know who you were, how many of our listeners can relate to those two statements? And this is just a path for them to start to be able to realize that there's others out there that are dealing with that too. And there is a way. And like you said, a lot of times I think we try to overanalyze, make things too difficult, and just kind of go with the flow and just kind of let it. And I always say, when people say, oh, I'm so sorry for them, I'm like, no, there's still positives there. Let's rather lift them up by finding those positives rather than going right down the same road that they're already on. So yeah, I can totally relate with you.
I had to give a speech. It was my very first keynote a little over a year ago. And I just can't keep that old job out of me. I was a conservationist for 20 years. I grew up on the farm. I just couldn't keep it out of it. So I had this picture. It was a dung It was a dung heap. It was a pile of manure. And then I placed bows all over the top of this manure pile. And we may feel like we just have been shit upon, but underneath the manure that just got flung our way, what's in manure? Nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Nutrients to grow. So when we feel like we've been shit upon, crapped upon, what do you do with that? Do you start to go down the trail and feel sorry for yourself? Or this happened to me again? At what point in time do you say, okay, what did I do to contribute to that situation? And where's the gold nugget in it? Where's the gift in this? What did I do to attract it? And secondly, what's the gift in it? What's the lesson in it? Even when I hit a point of self-loathing, that was the gift. Hitting rock bottom was the gift, because hitting rock bottom, I only had one place to look. That was up or take myself out.
Yeah.
There was two options, and I was really considering the other one, and then given an opportunity to say, no, don't want that. We again, I use myself as example. So my mode of thought was with my head and not my heart.
Yeah.
Our subconscious mind records everything, every feeling, every thought. I just wrote my weekly email, and it was a channel message. And when that came through, I was like, holy wow, the subconscious is just this little court reporter or a database that records every moment. Every moment. Isn't that mind-boggling?
That is mind-boggling. Unbelievable, because it just flashed to my mind, okay, all the thoughts I've thought today, that was all going in a database in the subconscious mind. I'm like,
absolutely.
I don't want that stored in there.
Exactly. And that's where it's important to bring in the law of free will, to bring in those boundaries. Is this important? Do I want to continue to feel this way? Yes or no? And if you've ever read, looking on my shelf here, it's Byron Katie. And that book is called Loving What Is. And she has a beautiful story. You can Google her, look her up. It's Byron, Byron, Katie, Katie. Book is called Loving What Is. Was so transformational for me to use her process called the work. And one of her worksheets is called Love Thy Neighbor. So in the discernment process of whether we're going to keep that feeling or discard that thought, especially when we feel like someone has wronged us, he hurt me. And I used this process with going through my second divorce. After the divorce was done, I was put into a financially precarious position, and there was so much blame there for several reasons. And then as I did the work, it was, I'll just use, I'll call him Xavier. People who know me know who he is, but I had written down, Xavier hates me. I figured that must be the course of all my discourse here. Xavier hates me. Is it true? Yes or no? And I said, yes. So if you say no, it's end of story. It's a thought you don't want to keep. So Xavier hates me. Is it true? No. Boom, you're done. Go on to the next thought. Xavier hates me. Yes. Okay. Now you have to turn that statement around and insert your name, or in my case, I. And it came out, I hate me.
Yeah.
Burn, baby, burn. Ooh, did that one burn. I had to put my pen down and I just sobbed, because that was the truth. I did not like myself. I hated myself. I hated myself for my past experiences, and I carried those around. Sometimes I wore them like a badge. Other times I carried them around. I call it it's like the Santa Claus bag. only I call it the not so goody good bag.
Mhm.
And you put these things in there and you pack them around with you, and you get weighted down, and it's just so disheartening. And that's where that self-loathing comes in. And when you get on that slippery, slidey slope, I call negative emotion, it's really easy to just keep compounding that and amplifying that vibration. It's very easy. And it's learning how to stop yourself from that slippery, slidey slope, that you don't go down there. And the law of free will can help you with that. And when you understand that it is an experience, and that both of you, and I'll use my ex-husband, that both of us, we were so bad to each other that it was so good. So we treated each other so poorly that it was what we both needed to do in order to move on. That marriage was not supposed to last. It did its job, it did its function, end of story. And not to carry that around with me as this, cross to bear, and moving it out of the way so that I could hit that rock bottom again for the second or third time and say, no, 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 no. This was all about learning. So now I can sit in meditation. I can hear his name and not be in disgust. I can hear his name and not be hateful toward him. I can hear his name and actually send him love now. Doesn't mean I approve of some of the things he did to me. I don't. But I thank him for it, because it put me in a place where I could finally see the light. I could finally see who am I.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is an incredible story on how you have turned it completely around. From It's almost kind of what I'm hearing. At first, you were the victim, and you turned
Yep.
it around where I'm no longer the victim. It's not me. I am not the victim. And how you started to love yourself. And then, like you said, now you can send love out to him. But I always say, first, it has to start with you. You have to love yourself first before you can love others. And learning, I always call the things in life, the experiences that happen, from what I have heard from my angels, they're the stepping stones in my life to get me to where I am today. And that just totally resonates with me.
Yeah. It's what I realized, and that you're never truly alone.
Mm-mm.
You're never alone.
Nope.
And the idea of separation is illusion. It's, again, that database, that subconscious mind that has kept track of everything and every event in your life that is your friend. So when the subconscious comes up and says, well, you really shouldn't do that, you're not going to be good at it,
Mm-hmm.
or you could fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you look at your good friend, the ego, and say, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thank you for pointing me in the direction that I do need to go. But right now, there's no need for you to feel fearful, and that my soul and I, God, are going to go down this path, and I have all my trust
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
that route.
Yeah.
And it's learning to stop yourself and say those kind words. And I was, just even a year ago, less than a year ago, I was not there, because I had so much. I wanted to not make my ego my friend, because it had wronged me. I had made all those mistakes. I listened to it. So I wanted to be mad at it. And now I have to embrace it, and not listen to it.
Yeah.
That's where I learned a lot from Mary Morrissey. And she said, when the paradigm, which is also the ego, if the paradigm keeps coming forward, you can say, oh, thank you very much. We'll have a meeting at 5 o'clock on Friday. And every time it comes up, we'll meet at 5 o'clock. And she says, honor it. So when it comes 5 o'clock on Friday, you sit down with your ego and you journal or you do whatever it is that you need to do with your ego to, and that's where I go back on the works. Is it true? Ego says this. Is it true? Yes or no? And keep working that love thy neighbor worksheet, and the truth comes out. It just really presents itself quite beautifully.
Oh, wow. Oh, that is incredible. I love how you say, well, we will chat about that at such and such a day on such and such a time, and then hold to that, and then work through whatever that was with that ego, because I always feel a lot of it is fear. So many things in this world are fear-based. And to me, fear is, I always go back to false evidence appearing real. And it seems like so many times that's exactly what it is. And how many times do we fear away that, no, I don't know if I can do this. And we never give ourselves the opportunity to even try. And
Exactly.
that's where, to me, the ego, whatever you want to call it, takes over and they run with your fear. And for me, I have to stop that fear and say, no, we're not going that path right now.
Part of what I learned through the Camfield programs and the Camfield network was, dreaming, learning how to dream.
Mhm.
And when you play victim, you shut your dreamer off, or at least I did.
Mhm.
It's very easy to shut it down. As I just recall getting out of college and then starting my jobs. I was just going to be this corporate businesswoman. I just was going to have the world by the butt. And all of a sudden, life started showing me different. So it was work, 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 and some play. But then by the time I got married and had my first child, it was all work and no play. And I think when we get caught up in life, at least I had the tendency to just shut everything else off. And I became minimal. And I was not feeding my soul at all. I was, taking care of everyone else. How many times have we heard working moms and being a mom? And if you're a stay-at-home mom, oh my God, kudos to you. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I have one child. So I can't imagine having 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. That's a lot of responsibility. So I always high five the working moms, the ones who stay at home and are juggling all that. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And then when you're working full time, then you at least I did, I had this guilt for not being with her.
Mhm.
So then you overcompensate the other side, and any free time that you thought you were going to have yourself just totally gets wiped aside. So those years can be very challenging. But I do know women who are very centered that they just get up that much earlier so that they can have their hour of power. And that sets the tone for the day. And I think had I had those rules or suggestions or guidelines way back when, my life probably would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
But I simply didn't know. And obviously my timing wasn't right for that.
Right.
So, yeah.
The universe, I feel, knows when the timing is right. For like now you're doing the channeling and everything. They knew when it was time for you to start doing that. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, it just wasn't the right time. So yeah, I hear you completely. And I think as women, we are always so busy taking care of everyone else that so many of us forget about ourselves. We think, oh, we'll be okay. We don't need anything. We're all right. As long as everyone else is happy, we'll be okay. Well, it doesn't always work that way.
No, and that was, I think, one thing when I first started getting these ideas of this channeling thing, I kept saying, no, no, no. Yeah, it's like my grandson he'll be 2 in July. And when You tell him no, he shakes that head back and forth and that blonde hair whips aside. It's like, no, no, no. I feel like that child. It's like, no, 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 we're not doing this. But every time that I say no or never, it happens.
Uh-huh. Isn't that the truth?
Yes. Yeah, channeling has been definitely been a challenge for myself. And the reason it's a challenge because I didn't accept it.
Yeah.
It was like, no, I am not this person. You want me to do what? And then I found myself channeling live every Friday. First I started out with doing these automatic writings, and then I would do a few readings for people. And I think we met a little bit before, but obviously first time listeners for me anyway, my process is called channel clearing.
Mm-hmm.
And my accountability partner from the Canfield program, she is like a rapid downloader. So she just fires things off. And it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. She's like, channel clearing, write it down. And then she was off to the next thing. So I had her come back around. I said, channel clearing. She's like, channel clearing is what you do. And that is your marketing. And I'm like, okay. It's like when I was writing my book, that's how the title came out. It's like, this is it. No questions asked. It's like, okay, so we're going to use channel clearing. So people are like, channel clearing, what is it? You never hear it. So let's explain it. A channel is simply a conduit. So a channel for electricity, a channel for water. I'm a conduit. So I'm getting and receiving information through thought. It's not like I've got spirit coming into my body. They're not. This is thought that I have to put into words and put it back out, either on paper or verbally. So my process, when I connect on paper, I'm so into it, there could be a hurricane and I don't think I would hear it. That's how focused I am on the client and the client's soul.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the connection of I'm asking, when someone signs on with me, I need permission to speak to your soul. That's either a yes or a no. And that's all I need. I don't need background information. I don't want any background information because then I know it's absolutely pure. I don't have that subconscious going back there doing all this court reporter crap. The less I know, the better. And when I connect, I ask permission to God to speak with your soul, and then it just starts coming through. Sometimes angels will come on the scene first. A lot of times, if it's something like so urgent, I've had them go right to the point. It's like no fluff, no nothing. We're getting right to what needs to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just write. So it's almost kind of like, especially when we look at past lives, it's almost like me telling a story. And spirit takes me there. And some of the things I've seen have just been shock and awe. But it doesn't bother me because my mind has shown me things of not truth, or maybe they were clips from past lives that scared the hell out of me in my healing. But it was stuff that I was ready to see and ready to release. Spirit will never, and here's a real never, they will never give you anything you cannot handle. It's what you're ready for. And we get through that story. And then if it is a past life, we go back that you face. So there's you, it's like mini you facing your former life, the former you. And then we heal that. And it is beautiful. It is, if you're crying, usually I'm crying. I'm so moved by it. So I get to do it twice. So I get it all done on paper. And then we meet via Zoom and we go over all this and we do the healing. Like I said, if you're crying, I'm usually crying. And then the soul doesn't just leave it at that. The soul gives you a prescription. So it's like physical therapy.
Wow.
Physical therapy that you get to do so that you feel held and supported. Mm-hmm. Depending on the level of trauma that we healed together. And I don't say you healed, you do the healing. So getting back to the channel, I'm the channel. You are the clearer. Mm-hmm. You're the one doing the work. You're clearing, you're healing, you're releasing, you're surrendering, going, God, I can't handle this anymore. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. So as you go through the homework, and I don't like calling it homework. It really is a prescription. It might be something like you need to go outside and take a walk in nature every day for the next 7 days. The things that resonate with you, your soul knows you like none other. They're going to give you things that maybe you hadn't considered. I know in one of my readings.
That's beautiful, Anne.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's in one of my readings, and I'm not mentioning names, and it's fairly simple, and I get the okay that I can do this, has a lactose intolerance, but her homework was to go have an ice cream sundae like she used to as a child.
Oh, wow.
So right away, she's like, well, I can't have ice cream. And then flip, her soul dropped it in. Rice milk, rice from ice cream made of different, go have that hot fudge sundae and be that kid again. It's things that you wouldn't necessarily think about. It could be homework like journal.
Yeah.
If this, then this. If this, how many limitless possibilities can you have? So it really is. It's a neat process.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, my. And I knew this show would go so very quickly, and we are almost at the closing here. And if you get a couple quick questions, I would love to have you back on my show again, because you have so much more knowledge to share, and this has gone so fast. Would you be my guest again on Robust Lifestyle?
Absolutely. This is fun. It's nice, and I have fun doing these.
Oh, I love it. And then would you please quickly share with our listeners the best ways to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me, you can go to my website. I always say it's kind of like dogs. If you need to sniff me out, you can go to my website. It's annclossing.com. My email is ann@annclossing.com. I am on Facebook, and it's Ann Clossing is my name. And when you go to my profile, there'll be also, I don't know if it's a link. I can't remember. I don't look at it. I just go in and do what I need to do. But I do have a Facebook group called We, and that is the collective consciousness that I channel. And we channel conversations with the infinite, I think is what the name of the group. But if you can get We, that's the gist of it. And then I channel live every Friday. So you can direct message me, you can email me. And if you go to my website, it talks about my mentorships. And then I also do one-on-ones. I don't have that up on there on my website anymore, but I might have to have her put it back up there. So
awesome.
1 hour one-to-ones, 2-week mentorship, 8-week mentorship. And then I'm open. Any way you want to work with me, just message me.
Oh, fantastic, Ann. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I look so forward to having you back on my show. And I want to thank you for this magical show and wish you magic in each and every day until you and I connect again on Robust Lifestyles.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And I would like to thank all of our listeners for listening to this magical show with our incredible diva, Ann Clossing. Please share this show with your family and friends. Be sure to check out all the other hosts and their shows on divasthatcare.com. And remember some of the first couple things she opened with: how to handle life and find out who you are and understand there is more to you down on your inside part, deep down inside. In your heart is where so much of it lies. And with that, I want to wish each of you a magical day. Remember, be kind to all, including the animals, and give your animals a great big extra hug and share all your love with them as they so deserve it. Until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, stay strong and healthy.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.